chaos simply means disorder. So all the elements of creation probably, and I put that word in there as a qualifier, probably were there. They were just not arranged. They were in disorder. They were chaos. They were confused. So in the beginning was chaos, and the Spirit of God hovered over and started the creation process. Okay? And we're not going to go through all those creation stories because we're talking about Judaism in particular. Here's where the story of Judaism starts. Was this guy and this woman. And the whole point in this story is that God created this wonderful place, but He desired fellowship. Now, when I say the word God, please hear the word Yahweh. He desired fellowship. He desired relationship. And so He individually and specifically created them, Adam and Eve. Now, the biblical story presents these individuals as singular, real people. And they most probably were. However, this word right here is a plural word. Adam is a plural word meaning mankind. Would be more properly correct to translate this that He created mankind. Okay? That answers a question then, where did Cain find his wife? God created more than one. But specifically, we're going to tell the story from one's perspective, and we call that one Adam. In the Hebrew, this means of the red earth. So Adam was made from, or mankind was made from the red earth, clay, most likely. Okay? And then Eve came along as a creation of what? Adam's rib. Okay. And He gave her the name woman. Which is what woman stands for. Woe is man. So, but they did something not right. God placed them in a paradise, and He said, I desire to have fellowship with you, and I put you in this beautiful spot called the Garden of Eden. You're free to do whatever you want. There's nothing out of bounds, nothing off limits, except the tree that is in the middle of the garden, the tree of good and evil, the tree of knowledge. You may not eat from that tree. And everything went along just great for a while, until you introduce those are legs. Because the serpent didn't crawl around on his belly, he walked around on legs. And he came to Eve one day and he said, did God really say that you can't eat from, this particular tree? And Eve said, yes, because the moment we eat from it, we will die. And then this is what he said to her. You surely will not die. God knows that when you eat of this, you will become like Him. So Scripture says she looked upon the tree and saw that it was good and looked tasty, and she took a bite and then offered some to Adam, who was standing right next to her. And as a result, they broke their relationship with God. They broke a command. They disobeyed. They failed to honor. And God drove them then out of the garden. The serpent was, the whole story is kind of neat, because God comes looking for Adam. It's their time for their afternoon coffee, and he's not to be found. So he goes walking through the garden, calling out, Adam, where are you? And finally, out from behind a bush, this meek little voice says, here I am, Lord. Adam, why are you hiding? And Adam steps out, dressed in a fig leaf. And God immediately says, Adam, did you eat of that tree I told you not to eat of? And he said, no, Lord, the woman made me do it. Actually, he's saying, God, it's all your fault. If you hadn't created that woman, I wouldn't be in the predicament I'm in. So then he looks at the woman and says, did you? And she says, God, it's all your fault. If you hadn't created that serpent, I wouldn't be in the condition I'm in. He never asked the serpent anything, oddly enough, but he puts a curse on the serpent, and the curse is you'll no longer go around on legs, you'll crawl on your belly through the dust. And that's why snakes are so ticked off today. The curse on the woman was she would have pains during childbirth. And the curse on man was he would have to toil and work by the sweat of his brow. Before, he didn't have to do anything but just tend the garden, pick up a few leaves here and there and harvest the fruit. And now he's going to have to work. So that experiment for relationship fell through. Some time passed, and God decided he would try again. And he went through a family called Noah. Actually, he tried it individually, and he thought, I didn't have a big enough perspective. I'll try it with all mankind. And all mankind just had a one big, huge party, day after day, orgy after orgy. And God said, I think I made a mistake here. And Scripture actually says he repented, or he changed his mind about the creation of mankind, because everything they did was evil. And so he determined he would destroy mankind, except there was this one man named Noah who was a righteous man. The word righteous meant that he obeyed God. And so Noah, you remember the story, builds an ark, and he takes two of everything that God has created and places in the ark, male and female, takes his own family into the ark, and then the rains come. And the earth is literally destroyed. The only one saved is Noah and his family. And so this is the way that the story and the process is going to continue. When you trace it all down, eventually it comes to a man by the name of Abram. And later we're going to put some ham on Abram. Some meat on his bones. But his name is simply Abram. God said, my grand experiment with a single family fell through. My grand experiment with all of mankind fell through. I'm going to try this experiment one more time with my own race of people. And this is where the Jewish story really starts. It's with Abram. Abram is a shepherd in the land of Ur, of the Chaldees, which is basically Babylon and Iraq, yes. And he's just, going along, minding his own business, enjoying being a shepherd, enjoying the migratory life that a shepherd has. And suddenly there's a call. This voice from wherever. Abram, get you to a land that I will show you, and I will bless you immensely. And he goes home and says to Sarah, pack your bags, we're moving. Abram, I'm used to, following the sheep, but where are we moving to? I don't have a clue. What do you mean you don't have a clue? The voice said. You've been dipping into the wine too much, Abram? But Abram does obey. He goes down to Israel, what we call Israel today. Eventually gets there. It takes him several months to make that journey. And as he stands at a place called Bethel, He looks out over this land, and it is pleasant to the eye. And God says, all this is yours. But there's a drought that is taking place right at this time. Not a lot of forage for his sheep. And so Abram fails the first test that God gives him. It's a test of faith. Do you really trust me? If you really trust me, you're going to look out on this land and see that everything is going to work out. But he fails that first test. He goes due west to a place called Egypt, where he's heard that there is ample forage for his livestock. And he is probably, at the time of this transition right here, 70 years of age. And his wife Sarai is right behind him at about 68 years of age. He says the most unusual thing to her. When we get to the land of the Pharaoh, tell him you're my sister. Because you're such a beautiful woman, he's going to want you as one of his wives. And if he thinks you're my wife, he's going to kill me in order to make you his wife. I would like to know the beauty products they used in that day, wouldn't you, girls? 68 years old and still a supermodel. Wow. And of course, you know, I'd like the young men to have the vitamins Abram was taking as well. He certainly didn't act his age. But that happens. The Pharaoh looks out and sees Sarai and thinks she's a beautiful woman, and he adopts her into his harem. Of course, things immediately go back to the Pharaoh. Plagues start happening. His armies are losing. His cattle are dying, and he just can't figure it out. So he says, you know, nothing new happened as I put this new woman in my harem. I'm going to find out about her. So he calls Abram in and says, what is this? And Abram says, well, she's really my wife, and God's ticked off at you. Why didn't you tell me she was your wife? And I wouldn't have done this. He said, because I thought you'd kill me. Probably right. But by this time, Pharaoh's not going to mess with Abram at all. And so he bribes him to leave Egypt and go back to Israel. He also increases and multiplies his flocks as a bribery gift. Abram gets back to Israel, and he's got